The Matrix changed my life, and then over these years, it's changed so many other people's lives.
What if everything you knew about Keanu Reeves, his tragedies, his silence, even the Matrix itself, was only half the story? For 25 years, he kept a secret buried beneath sunglasses and slow-motion bullets, until now. This isn't just about an actor. It's about a man who lost everything, vanished from fame, and returned with a message Hollywood tried to erase. You thought The Matrix was fiction? Keanu says it was a warning, and the world wasn't ready to hear it. He lost his anchor, his light, his closest soul, and the one person who pushed him too far? He still couldn't let go. But for more than 2 decades, he stayed silent, not a whisper. Until now, when the weight of the past cracked through the surface like a fault line. At 60, Keanu Reeves is finally opening the vault on a story wrapped in silence, veiled behind dark sunglasses and Hollywood's shimmering facade. It's not just The Matrix that's breaking, it's the illusion we thought we understood. Keanu Reeves was never meant to be the poster child of fame. His story didn't begin on the red carpets of LA, but in the unrest of Beirut in 1964, a place and time already tangled in instability. At just 3 years old, his father vanished, leaving a void that would echo through every chapter of his life. What followed wasn't a traditional childhood. It was a whirlwind of cities: Beirut, Sydney, New York, Toronto, before he even hit double digits. He struggled through school, wrestling with dyslexia, bouncing between 4 high schools in 5 years, before ultimately walking away at 17. But to Keanu, quitting school didn't mean giving up. It meant stepping away from a path that never fit, to search for one that did. He dabbled in everything: bit parts in obscure Canadian shows, awkward soda commercials, Shakespeare plays no one watched. Nothing came easy, but he never wanted easy. Fame wasn't his fuel. Truth was, acting wasn't about red carpets or sound bites. It was a way to understand the world and himself better. By the time the late 80s rolled around, Keanu wasn't a star, but he was something rarer. He was genuine, authentic, unpolished in a town that thrives on the opposite. When Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure exploded in 1989, Keanu became a cultural icon overnight. Ted was playful, clueless, and kind, just like Keanu, but only on the surface. Behind the scenes, he was introspective, almost spiritual. While critics dismissed him and studios scratched their heads, audiences saw something different, something real. Then came a decision that revealed exactly who Keanu was. He took a role in My Own Private Idaho, opposite River Phoenix, a film drenched in risk, poetry, and taboo at a time when Hollywood didn't know what to do with stories like that. But Keanu didn't flinch. He rode his motorcycle over 1,000 miles just to talk River into taking the role. Who does that in this town? That kind of loyalty doesn't just break the mold, it rewrites it. But even the strongest bonds aren't immune to tragedy. Halloween night, 1993. River Phoenix collapsed outside the Viper Room. He was only 23. The news hit like a gut punch, and Keanu was left breathless. In the middle of shooting Speed, the film that would propel him to full-blown action stardom, he found himself navigating grief in the shadows. Sandra Bullock remembered the quiet way he carried that sorrow, the heaviness in his gaze between takes, the depth of loss that no camera could capture. Keanu never gave the press a quote. He never capitalized on his grief. When asked, he'd pause, lower his eyes, and whisper, "He was tired. It takes a lot." That sentence said everything and nothing, because how do you speak about someone who meant everything? River's death wasn't just a personal loss, it was a spiritual rupture. It didn't break Keanu's career, it reshaped it. After that, his choices seemed less about Hollywood and more about healing. He didn't chase the limelight, he retreated from it. While others sprinted towards sequels, interviews, and awards, Keanu went inward, choosing roles that reflected the storm he kept buried. That silence wasn't emptiness, it was mourning. What audiences didn't realize back then was how much pain Keanu had already survived, and how much more he would quietly endure. The loss of River was only one part of the story, but it was the moment that made the world look a little closer at a man who had always stayed in the background. And now, after years of quiet resilience, he's finally allowing that curtain to lift just enough for the truth to seep through. Because behind the iconic slow-motion gunfights and digital dystopias was always a man who never really fit the frame. Keanu Reeves, for all his fame, never acted like a celebrity. He was the guy who gave away millions from his Matrix salary to crew members. The man spotted quietly eating a sandwich on a park bench, offering it to a stranger. That humility wasn't an act. It was a defense against a world that had taken so much from him. And still he gave back. What's emerging now isn't just a confession. It's a reckoning. With loss, with silence, with the ghosts that have walked beside him since childhood. Keanu's voice may be calm, but his story is thunder. And as he finally begins to speak, we're beginning to understand just how deep that story goes. In 1998, Keanu Reeves met someone who would change his world all over again, Jennifer Syme. She was radiant, sharp, deeply immersed in the film industry, working with David Lynch. And with Keanu, there was an instant connection, something unspoken that tethered them together. A year later, they were expecting their first child, a daughter they had already named Ava. But joy turned to heartbreak on Christmas Eve, 1999, when Ava was stillborn, just weeks before her due date. No words could carry that kind of weight. The silence that followed between them wasn't distance. It was the space grief carved out, a quiet place where love and pain coexisted. Though they eventually parted ways as a couple, their bond was never broken. Early in 2001, they were growing close again, navigating that space between healing and hope. On April 1st, they had brunch, nothing grand, just laughter and familiar warmth. Later that evening, Jennifer attended a party. She never made it home. The next morning, Keanu called the coroner's office, voice low, heart pounding. "Is she there?" he asked. She was. That moment didn't just change him, it deepened the silence around him. From then on, there were fewer interviews, more long rides on his motorcycle, more solitude. He wasn't turning his back on the world. He was learning how to carry it. But here's the twist. In the same year he experienced the crushing loss of a child, he also stepped into the role that would define an era. The Matrix launched in 1999, a film everyone had passed on. Will Smith said no, so did Nicolas Cage. Studios couldn't make sense of it, but Keanu said yes. He didn't fully understand the script, but he felt it. 4 months of relentless martial arts training, wirework sessions, and philosophical deep dives followed. While the world saw a hero dodging bullets in slow motion, Keanu was undergoing a personal transformation. He wasn't just Neo. He was the lost soul searching for clarity, just like so many of us. The Matrix wasn't just a sci-fi action thriller. It was a coded message hiding in plain sight. The Wachowskis weren't crafting a tale about machines. They were making a mirror, a reflection of a world so automated, so filtered, that reality itself had become an illusion. The red pill wasn't rebellion. It was a choice to see the world for what it really is, no matter how painful. Keanu didn't just act those lines, he felt them. And audiences? They didn't just watch Neo rise, they saw themselves in his eyes. Still, the studio wanted spectacle, not philosophy. They trimmed scenes, softened the message, and buried the deeper meanings. But Keanu didn't push back. He let the system do what it does, knowing that the real message would survive. Not in headlines, but in hearts. He became a quiet revolutionary. While others soaked up press tours and accolades, he leaned into silence. Because for him, this wasn't about glory, it was about freedom. Fast forward to 2024, the 25th anniversary of The Matrix. Keanu sat across from Stephen Colbert during a quiet interview. The jokes faded, replaced by a rare stillness. "What did it mean to you?" Colbert asked. Keanu paused. The air seemed to stop moving. "It changed my life," he said simply. "And I think it changed how people see the world." That was the on-camera response. But what he said behind closed doors peeled back even more layers. Because the truth is, The Matrix didn't just alter cinema, it unmasked a hidden truth about modern existence. We live curated lives, filtered feeds, predictable routines. But Keanu, he became the face of the question we all feel but rarely ask: what is real anymore? While the rest of Hollywood kept performing, he lived in between roles, choosing projects that resonated with where he was emotionally, not what would sell. His grief didn't weaken him. It made his performances richer, his eyes heavier, his silences more powerful. He wasn't chasing stardom. He was telling stories from the very place most actors hide. And that vulnerability? That's what makes him timeless. Because in a world obsessed with perfection, Keanu reminds us that the most human thing we can do is feel, even when it hurts. Every glance, every pause, every breath he took on screen in the years after Jennifer's passing carried a weight few could recognize. But now, with time and distance, the puzzle begins to fit. He never needed to say much. The pain was always right there, in his stillness, in his eyes, in the spaces between his words. And for those paying close enough attention, the message was never lost. It was simply waiting to be heard. They told him to keep quiet, to let it fade. "They made me hide this," Keanu whispered to a close friend one night. The Matrix wasn't just a movie, it was a message for now, but they didn't want people to start questioning what's real. Deep within the script, there were scenes where Neo discovered even the real world was just another layer, another illusion designed to pacify the rebels, a rebellion built to fail. But those scenes? Cut, deleted, buried. They weren't ready for the world to wake up, he said, the weight of truth pressing against years of silence. But that wasn't the only secret he kept. After the success of The Matrix, something even more personal shattered his trust. He was locked into filming The Watcher, a movie he never agreed to. Someone from his inner circle had forged his signature, a betrayal from within. He never exposed the person responsible. No press conferences, no lawsuits, just silence. He honored the contract, did the film, and disappeared from that chapter without burning the world down. But the damage was permanent. That moment reshaped his view of loyalty, of fame, of the price of being too trusting. Not long after, another storm rolled in. He passed on Speed 2, calling the plot about a cruise ship absurd. Fox didn't take it lightly. The studio blacklisted him. For 14 years, they quietly locked him out of major projects, spinning whispers and rumors in the background. But then came the twist no one saw coming. The Matrix became a cultural earthquake, raking in over $469 million. Suddenly, the actor they'd mocked was the face of a movement. Fox had missed out on a legacy, but time wore on, and by 2014, the momentum began to fade. Hollywood started treating him like a relic from a different era. Until John Wick. It wasn't just a film, it was a resurrection. A man mourning a dog, yes, but underneath that story was something rawer. Keanu wasn't just playing grief, he was bleeding it. John Wick wasn't an act. He was Keanu wrapped in vengeance and silence, carrying the weight of every loss he never voiced. The franchise reignited his career, but more importantly, it gave him a language for his pain. The stunts weren't flashy, they were meditations on survival. Every punch, every stare, every pause spoke volumes. And then, at 60 years old, Keanu finally lifted the veil. In a quiet moment off camera, he said the words he'd kept hidden for decades. The Matrix was supposed to wake people up, but they cut it to rock them back to sleep. For 25 years, he protected a truth buried beneath sci-fi action and iconic lines. Neo wasn't a savior, he was a symbol, a reflection. He wasn't meant to show us how to win. He was supposed to make us ask, what parts of our lives are just another illusion? What comforts have become cages? Keanu's journey isn't one of explosions or scandals. It's the story of endurance, of surviving without making noise. While others crumbled under the weight of spotlight, he quietly rewrote his narrative. He didn't lash out. He didn't chase headlines. He simply persisted, with grace, with kindness, with purpose. And when others built empires on controversy, Keanu built a legacy on loyalty and truth. His silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. He chose depth over drama. Today, his world reflects that same quiet elegance. While never flashy, Keanu's lifestyle is a blend of practicality and understated luxury. He's owned a range of rare motorcycles, including custom-built arch models he co-designed. His car collection includes a Porsche 911 and a sleek black Mercedes G-Wagon. He wears timepieces like the Carl F. Bucherer Monero Autodate, a refined choice, not showy. His real estate portfolio includes a multi-million-dollar mansion in the Hollywood Hills. complete with sweeping views and serenity. Though he rarely flies private, when he does, it's out of necessity, not vanity. He's invested in Arch Motorcycle Company, a passion project turned business, and taken shares in smaller tech ventures and film production companies. Known for being incredibly generous, he's also secured insurance policies covering film delays, asset protection, and long-term care, quietly securing his future while giving freely to crew and charities alike. The biggest financial lesson from Keanu? Build for peace, not attention. Spend with intention. And always protect what matters, not just what shines. From abandoned child to reluctant superstar, from silent grief to cinematic truth-teller, Keanu Reeves never stopped showing us who he really was. Even when the world wasn't listening, even when the studios tried to mute the message, he endured betrayals, exile, and unimaginable loss, but chose stillness over spectacle. Now, as the curtain finally lifts, he's giving the audience a choice he always hoped they'd make: to look deeper, question more, and wake up. Because the Matrix isn't coming, it's already here. If this journey hit you right in the soul, don't forget to hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that go beyond the surface. We've got more legends, more hidden truths, and more Hollywood untold headed your way. And as Keanu once whispered in a rare moment of clarity, sometimes the only way to be free is to stop pretending you already are. Keanu Reeves didn't just play a character in a movie. He became a symbol of something far greater. Through heartbreak, betrayal, career twists, and personal evolution, he showed us that resilience doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. From losing his best friend River Phoenix, to grieving the unimaginable loss of his daughter and partner, to confronting the betrayal of someone within his own circle, Keanu kept showing up, not just on the big screen, but in life. Quietly, honestly, unshaken. We traced his story from a turbulent childhood that could have swallowed him whole, through the roller coaster of early fame, where he refused to bend to the usual Hollywood playbook. He didn't chase tabloid headlines or quick fame. He chose roles with soul, with grit, with a message. From Bill and Ted to My Own Private Idaho, he carved out a space no one else occupied, one built on authenticity, not ego. And when the world handed him The Matrix, he didn't just act in it, he lived it. Behind those leather coats and epic stunts was a man wrestling with the very question the film posed: what is real? And what's the illusion we've learned to accept as normal? That wasn't a role, it was a reflection. Then came John Wick, another chapter that mirrored the grief he carried, channeled into a performance that didn't just reboot his career, but redefined it. It wasn't about revenge, it was about love, loss, and carrying pain without letting it break you. Keanu transformed tragedy into purpose, silence into power. And behind the scenes, the man lives as quietly as he acts boldly. He rides the subway. He gives away millions. He doesn't flash his wealth, but yes, he owns some enviable real estate, including a sleek LA home and a private retreat in the hills. He's been spotted cruising in classic Porsches and riding rare motorcycles, rocking watches that whisper class like Rolex and Patek Philippe. His investments? Strategic. He co-founded a motorcycle company, dipped into publishing, and backs causes close to his heart. And while he stays low-key, you better believe he protects what he's built, reportedly keeping his assets insured and safeguarded with the same precision he brings to his stunts. What's the lesson? You don't need to shout to build an empire. Sometimes moving in silence makes the loudest statement. So if this deep dive into Keanu's layered journey made you see him in a whole new way, smash that like button, drop your favorite Keanu moment in the comments, and hit subscribe, because we've got even more emotional reveals, untold Hollywood truths, and jaw-dropping celebrity stories coming your way. And remember, in a world full of noise, Keanu taught us that stillness speaks volumes.